Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another week of Growing with My Fellow Growers. I am your host, Jack Greenstock, joined as always by an amazing panel. I'm going to pass it over first this week to Spartan Grown. Welcome back.
Thank you, Jack. I am Spartan Grown. You can find me on Instagram, Spartan Grown, all one word, no spaces. Or if you don't do the Instagrams, you can do an email, spartangrown@gmail.com, and I can help you with all of your growing and lighting questions.
Happy to have you back. And I don't know if it was Noah or somebody else just sent me something about a light. I'm not sure if I got back to him or not. I don't think I did actually. So if it was Noah, well, welcome in, Noah the girl. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that and some other topics. But cheers, Noah. Welcome here.
Yeah, hey, I'm Noah the Grow on Instagram. You can find me there and happy to be here. Yeah, I'm digging into lights and trying to find a decent one for a decent deal. There's levels and stuff, but I'm doing it slowly, looking for a sale or something that I can do it the cheap home grow way.
Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Always good to save some money, especially if you can get near the same or some in some cases the exact same kind of product for the same, you
You
know.
can go use, get Facebook Marketplace, something like that. You can get some fucking screaming deals there sometimes. People just are
I've
getting out of the game and
I've
you
been
can
looking
just,
on Marketplace.
yeah, dude.
Nothing wrong with that at all. I will say unrelated to the lights. I guess it is kind of related to the lights because we're going into what is most places hot season in the northern hemisphere here. So if you are above the equator, then you're going to be, if you're not already warm, it's going to be getting warm and warming up. And so preparing for that and coming up with ways to manage it and maybe getting your equipment, technology, etc., dialed in and lined up so that your plants don't suffer when the summer season comes. I know some people literally shut down. I think Noah, for a time, might have been one of those people who at least cut off a few lights during the summer or cut back significantly during the summer. But the summertime is undeniably a challenge, whether in the northern or southern hemisphere, just on opposite schedules. But you guys get hot in your what would be our winter is your summer. So you get hot out there too. And it's important, as always, to make sure that you're not letting your plants roast. So we could get into talking a little bit about preparing for that and what we like to do going into the summer and during the summer to best mitigate kind of the stresses that the plants may deal with if they don't have the environment kept in check. So we'll get a little bit into that. And I'm curious, have you, either of you, found any of your strains that you run to be more heat tolerant or heat resistant or just generally okay in hot weather, hot temperature, etc.? I'll pass it first to Spartan Grown on that one.
I haven't really noticed any that were especially good. They all tend to do well in the heat. They tend to grow better faster. And I mean, our grow rooms tend to be, at least my grow room now with the, following VPD, it tends to be in the warmer temperatures anyway, running LED lights. And so even inside, they're low 80s in the grow room. So where I'm at in Michigan, it's only usually maybe a handful of days they get in the 90s and hundreds, although recently that's been going up. But yeah, I haven't really had to worry about that, so it's not even been something to select for. But no, I haven't really noticed any really being overly better than others in the heat.
Yeah, ideally, once you get the environment dialed in, especially, we shouldn't be seeing or selecting for that because ideally the environment is kept outside of those extreme ranges. But I know that sometimes things happen and occasionally things do pop up. I'm curious, Noah, over the years, maybe with your current cuts or stuff in the past, did you ever notice anything that tended to do a little bit better in the heat if you had to run during the summer or in those hot times generally?
No, if anything, the opposite. I've noticed things that didn't do as well. But no, I'm very conscious of environment. It's growing under HBS. It's like one of your more important like points to really hit on. And so I haven't really had any problems. Last year, actually, I did with my AC. And so my ballasts are switchable. So I just switched them to like 600. And I have 600-watt bulbs too, but I was just running the thousands at 600. And I forgot about one of my lights, and like it was like December, and I'm like, man, it doesn't look as bright as the other one. And then I go, oh shoot, I forgot to switch it. So mental note to like put that in my phone as like a reminder if I do that again. But My AC is working quite a bit better right now. I serviced it, and yeah, so I don't have that problem at this time. But I have noticed plants really not liking, heat and being heat stressed, but I've never really noticed them dealing, to deal with it. I haven't had that come up yet.
Did any seem like they were particularly worse at handling the heat stress? In your case, Noah.
Yeah, absolutely. Right off the bat, one that I can vividly remember is Gorilla Glue. Gorilla Glue 4 don't like it. I mean, obviously, like maybe in like a LED setup or like maybe other people's individual or that pheno, but the phenos that I've had, it didn't really like it. It would foxtail quite a bit. I could notice the trichomes not forming. You know what I mean? Like if you've grown a strain more than a couple times, you can kind of see, you kind of know how greasy it's supposed to look, what it's supposed to look like. I could see that it wasn't producing as much THC. Then, of course, everyone has had foxtail or bleaching, if you get your light too close. But I think the heat can also kind of compound that because I've noticed it almost always seems to happen in the summer. So Gorilla Glue 4, I noticed was not the one that I had. And see, that's the thing. I've grown different phenos of Gorilla Glue and had different results. So I'm sure, it can vary and everybody's situation is completely different. I've had numerous people that have grown the exact same cuts as me. Like I go in their room and like it's like performing like completely different. So like I just don't think people understand, at least me personally, how important environment is and how like drastically it can swing things. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, for sure. I actually have sent out a couple dozen GG4 cuts at this point, and part of the reason I'm talking about growing in the heat is even sending clones in the heat. I know some people have said ice packs are a way to potentially do it. I'm considering maybe throwing or figuring out ways to get ice packs into the shipments on the hotter times of the year to try and increase success. Because I had my first one, maybe two, that didn't successfully make it. So had to do a couple reshipments and got a couple more, at least on the way, I should say, planned. And I think that could happen to any clone, admittedly. I know a lot of people have issues sending clones during the hot times of the year. I just saw somebody else actually talking about that. They had, I think they're in New York or somewhere on the East Coast, and they sent them out to Arizona, and they had some issues with stuff not making it there, as well as like Washington or California or something like that. And yeah, so the heat can definitely negatively impact stuff. I'm curious if Spartan Grown has come across some issues with plants growing in the heat, maybe specific strains. What's your experience with GG4 in the heat? If it's ever gotten hot, has GG4 given you any issues?
No, no, GG4 is fucking grows great in the heat for me, and because she actually kind of spreads out pretty well on her own, and keeps the airflow pretty good as long as you keep it stripped down some. The biggest thing I worry about with GG4 is supporting her latent flower because a lot of times, especially outside, she'll build fucking buds big enough to just, and she doesn't have like seems to build big enough stems to hold those buds, and it'll snap easy, especially if you got strong winds. Um, but that's my only bitch with G4, other GG4. Otherwise, she seems pretty bulletproof proof in this area. But again, I'm in Michigan, so other areas are going to be different.
When you are not in your hot time of year, like when you're in the winter, I know that you talked about in the past, when people were saying like running CMH or HPS to avoid running a heater, do you have a dedicated heater for your grow? Running LED to make sure that it stays in that nice, high 70s, low 80s that the LED plants would like.
Yeah, I'd leave a heater 24/7, radiant heater 24/7 plugged in my flower room. And that's really mostly used usually when the lights are off, to be honest, to keep that grow room about the same temperature. It'll fluctuate. It's okay if it fluctuates up to about 10 degrees for me, but other than that, I'd like it to be the same, or a few degrees difference is fine. Towards the end, maybe let it drop a little bit to maybe try to bring some colors or something like that. But normally speaking, I'm generally adding heat into my room with a heater. Um, and I do generally sometimes in the middle of like in the hottest days, I might have to run the AC in there, but usually I can just cycle air to cool, and I don't even need to run a AC a lot of the times. I'm also running my light's a little bit close, probably 18 inches or so from the tops, and keeping them dimmed down. That way you don't have to run them as you have to run as much power through them. It doesn't create as much heat. All benefits.
It is nice, and especially since the plants don't seem to mind too much, dialing things back a little bit, and you could still get a shocking amount of good cannabis out of relatively low wattage. When you start dialing it back, it's like, wait, how low can I actually go with this? And you'll eventually start to see that you're losing yield, but like even if you're just like looking at like trying to hit like that 2 grams per watt or whatever, like it scales all the way back to like 50 watts or 100 watts. If you throw 50 watts at it, you're going to get 100 grams, or if you throw 100 grams at it, you can get 200, or 100 watts, you can get 200 grams type thing. And if you do things right, obviously, if you keep the environment dialed in and give the nutrition that the plants want. Something that I thought of when you were talking about the temperature swing between day and night, I actually know people that will push, like they'll crank their air conditioning to make that 10-degree difference. Like, not only are they okay with it, they want, like, let's say your top temperature for the day is 82. They want their low temperature for the night to be 72. And like they'll have the AC set to push it down to that and keep it at that floor. And then during the daytime, crank it back up, which I think that there's some debate to be had because I know other people that have fought to keep the exact same. So they want it to be 82 degrees all the time, day or night, or 77 degrees all the time, day or night, 78 degrees all time, day or night, with a constant relative humidity, roughly. And so that their VPD and environment is almost at a, constant, and it allows the plants to, in one case, I've heard claims that when they went from doing like the 10-degree swing to constant daytime, nighttime temperatures, that the stretch was greatly reduced when they had the daytime,
I-
nighttime
I've
temperature the
heard you
same.
see that more when the night temperatures are a little bit warm, like a couple degrees warmer even, and then the daytime temperatures, and that's what will help really slow down the stretch. So it makes sense that if you're getting closer to that point, then it would also slow it down.
Yeah, so when those opposites happen as well, which can happen during certain seasons, like especially like if it's your summertime and you do like I do, run the lights at nighttime, and then the daytime comes and it gets as hot as possible in your home or environment that you're growing in, when the lights are off, then you could have hotter nighttime temps than daytime temps pretty easily, actually, because then come nighttime in the summer, it cools down 10, 20, however many degrees, depending on where you're at, pull in some outside air or even run a little AC, and boom, you can have cooler lights on temp than your lights off temp, which just seems so crazy to think of because for so many years it was like the exact opposite for me. But I've been in that exact situation where that has happened. And it is interesting to see like how sometimes the same clone or plants will react like season to season, because you'll have those situations where it's like maybe outside your control. There's going to be that 10-degree swing. And then sometimes it's going to be hotter during the night than it is during the day, and seeing how different plants react. That's kind of why I wanted to ask you guys what your experiences were with stuff doing well, because I think that is a rarity. Like in warm or like hot, like I think when Spartan was saying all of his stuff does like well, and like what I think most people consider hot is like the low 80s, which like we're comfortable now with LEDs. But I'm thinking like if it gets into like the 90s or like pushing 100 type thing, some stuff still tends to do okay. Like there's some Hawaiian varieties or
I'd say
equatorial varieties.
most stuff will do okay. So one technique that some people will use, especially in outdoor to try to combat molds, right, is to get that room, that tunnel or whatever, super hot. And so they'll get it to like 100, 120 degrees and hold it for an hour, 2 hours. And the plants fucking love it. I've seen multiple fucking different strains. It's like, I think it's more often they love it than they don't. As long as you got everything else, taken care of, you crank the CO2, everything else is good for them. I think the hot temperatures will be just fine, especially night, even up to 90, 100.
And especially making sure they've got plenty of water beforehand. I know like outdoor growers, when they have a heat wave coming up in Humboldt, they'll go out and give a nice cold water that morning, so that the plants have access to a nice cool and wet saturated root zone. So when it does get hot, they're not hitting any dry pockets or anything like that, and starving themselves out. So yeah, like you can totally overcome those things. It happens all the time in nature. It is funny. I almost feel like because we give the plants such consistent conditions indoors, we almost I'm gonna make a comparison to children, but it's probably not the most apt. But like sometimes when you have like a really well-to-do family that they are able to give their child everything, that kid grows up to become addicted to some harmful substances or has some sort of personality issues. And I think it manifests itself in problems because they're never, not never. I mean, everybody has the different challenges. Just to say that you have money doesn't mean you have any issues. But in this hypothetical, that person who faced very little struggle goes on to create their own struggles. And then the person who maybe had little to nothing, they face natural struggles. Maybe they lost a parent or whatever it was, and they don't have too much, and they struggle and grind and figure it out. Um, I think like the plants in the outdoor situation are like the one that's struggling and figuring it out. The one in the indoor situation is like the one that had everything kind of given it to it. And so when things go awry, like in the case of the power goes out, or you get a heat wave, or some sort of technical issue like your exhaust fan fails or your CO2 goes out or whatever it is for days, hours, a week, whatever it is, timer goes out a little bit. The indoor plant that's like been sort of coddled in a way is going to suffer a lot worse, I think, than the outdoor plant that's sort of constantly got battered with big temperature swings, crazy light fluctuations from hot sunny days to cloudy days and rainy days and birds flying by and, pecking at them and shitting on them and brushing through them and all that different stuff. Um, I just think, long story short, it builds a sort of resiliency, I think, in the outdoor plants and maybe even greenhouse plants that maybe is lacking a little bit in the indoor plants. And not to say that they can't. Like I've seen plenty of indoor grows that can get super hot, and I think Jungle Boys made their whole name on running grows hot and humid. And I think a lot of people are still because we read a lot of these older grow books that are like it's supposed to be this temperature and this humidity, and it's like maybe several degrees and percent lower in the RH and temperature range than what we're comfortable with now. But a lot of people still hold that stuff as like a Bible. It was literally like in a grow Bible or whatever, quote unquote, depending on which thing you read and when you read it. A lot of people, I think, cling to the early ways that may have worked for them, and it might still work, in a variety of conditions and a variety of environments. But it's I don't know. It's nice to see things change, and I almost made tonight a science episode. I didn't come across any great articles because I don't know. Maybe I didn't look deep enough. However, but as we continue to grow and see more of the science unfold, I think we're gonna, you know, see them learning because I think we're a bit ahead of the curve at this point, and we're pulling the scientists sort of along with the lesser bro sciencey stuff. Like I think a lot of us have adopted general good gardening habits and tips and ethics. And like if you look at a Coots mix, it's very close to a Cornell mix, which is a very scientific back based soil mix that was successful for tons and tons of plants for a long time. And so I think it's fine to have shared stuff, but also I think our community is admittedly, pat some of the trailblazers on the back and say, we have a lot of innovators. We do have people that do cool shit. Like I see some stuff in cannabis that I don't see in other gardening. So shout out to all the cannabis people that are doing unique and interesting stuff. And mostly because we're forced to grow it indoors at large scale, because uh, it was illegal for so long. And unless you were like in Alaska or Michigan in the winter and wanted to grow some, predatory plant or carnivorous plant, not predatory. I was thinking about IPM and predatory bugs, but these things can happen indoor, but for the most part, they're happening outdoor in people's gardens or in a little greenhouse, or some people have those houses that have like the little greenhouse on the side. Those are kind of awesome, hot houses or whatever. But yeah, there's so many different things. I'm rambling and jibber jabbing now, but I'm not really sure where I want to go with this one. Maybe we get into IPM a little bit, but uh,
Well, one thing I want to talk about before forget to talk about, I don't think I'll forget about it, but is this weekend I was able to attend the Michigan Gems and Gen X event, and it was at a new location this year. And unbeknownst to me, so th they had a couple days. So the first day we went there, it was raining, right? So just bad luck, raining, pouring. And so we get there and it just had cleared up from a rain. And was walking around and I went through like, I don't know, quite a few booths and ran into a lot of people that I knew and stuff, which was awesome. But I wasn't seeing any cannabis out or anything. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then ran into the guy who runs the whole thing. And he said, yeah, this area doesn't have any it doesn't even have a dispo. They're just not really weed friendly. I'm like, well, why would you hold the genetic? He goes, well, the guy said that we could have cannabis here. You guys can consume and everything." And he said, "And what happens under the table is fucking nobody else's business," kind of a thing. And I was like, "Oh, I see what you're talking about." So it was surprising to see that there wasn't really a lot of cannabis, but also walking around and seeing everybody, and I had my backpack with me, and dabs with me, and I was getting dabbed out just as much as I was dabbing other people out. So it wasn't like there wasn't cannabis there. So that was super cool. And in that event, I didn't have a booth or anything this time. I just had like some chairs, and we set up a umbrella to keep the sun off us. But it was super cool, man. It was really awesome to be able to just chill, hang back, and not worry about like you're working or anything like that, and talk to the different people you'd see walk past. Oh hey, sometimes you only see them once a year at these events, and that's it. So it was cool. And one of the really cool things was there's a guy there who makes this trading card game, Cultivar, the card game. He's been working on it for a few years now, but it's on the same along the same lines as like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, that kind of a thing. But it gets a lot of people from the cannabis industry in it, and it's basically you're playing like you're growing cannabis, so it's pretty cool. Anyhow, I've got my own card. He hooked me up with my own card, and it's in the set. It's like a foil, it's a special card, so that was pretty cool. I had people there stopping me wanting to sign those cards because a couple people had that card. They wanted me to sign it, and so I did. And yeah, it just made you feel more like a rock star than anything. But it was super cool. I got a deck, one where you can get a deck that's got already a whole deck put together instead of just hoping you get everything you need and as you buy decks. There's one already put together, and it was a Bokashi Earthworks theme deck. So that was cool. It's got like Brandon's different his strains in there. And I don't know. It was pretty cool. So shout out to that guy. I thought that was pretty good pretty good idea. And it's like marketing too, really, when you think about it, because you mean my face would be on there, or everybody's Brandon's face would be on there forever, and people playing this game would be like, what is that? And maybe they'll search it up. So it's
The
kind of a
lore, I
win-win,
mean,
yeah. And he's got people over from all over the place, man. I mean, there's a few people that I like, Tommy Trichomes and uh, Country Roots. I had Chris was there. I got him to sign it for me. So yeah, bunch of cool people. T-Dog the artist. Yeah, I'll just go on and go on and go on. But I had a really, really good time out there at Gems and Genetics. Surprisingly, I was kind of thinking I wouldn't after the first day, but no, I really had a great time.
weather can only shoot you down so much. I think when you got so many
Yeah.
good people together, whether it's under the table or over the table. I mean, for so many years, the stuff was under the table, and it was
Mhm.
other stuff that was being vended: pins, hats, tie
Oh yeah.
dyes,
All
blankets,
kinds of stuff there. Oh my gosh.
beads.
All kinds of art stuff. Yeah. And shout out to Varkdog. Varkdog came all the way from Ohio. He came up and with his wife, and they just came and chilled with us the whole time, hooked us up with all kinds of weed. I've got bags and bags of weed that he blessed us with here that we're going to be slowly working through. I really love, I smoked some of the Vortex that he grew. The seeds I sent him, he grew it, and man, fucking excellent. I love it.
Nothing
So
better
yeah, he
than getting to smoke a
definitely did
sample.
that right. So yeah, Vark Dog gets a thumbs up from all the Spartan Grown there.
What kind of stone is it? Is it really the living up to the Vortex high? Is it nice and uppity, no
Yeah,
ceiling kind
yeah, and
of?
the flavor too is like that really like lemony, citrusy, and it's loud. You know what I mean? Really loud, and that's love it. He has so
Heck
many
yeah.
different strains. I have probably 8 to 10 different strains in here. It's not just Vortex. There's tons of strains.
I love to see the cannabis community bridging the Ohio versus Michigan. I know that you're a Spartan, not a Wolverine, but my whole life it was referred to as the state up north. We wouldn't even call it Michigan. And it's
They
just
fought a
such a
war,
funny
man.
thing.
There's a legit war fought back in the day between Michigan and Ohio. So there's
Crazy
some bad
history.
blood. It runs deep.
Really does. And a lot of easy to overlook the long history, but even just the college football rivalry alone between the Wolverines and the Buckeyes. Although it
Oh
was
yeah.
one-sided for most of my lifetime, admittedly, Ohio State was on the winning end, so I didn't necessarily care, and that partially is probably why I didn't. I always saw it kind of as silly. It's like, why do I have to care about hating Michigan people? It's like it's not even really a close rivalry. It's when one team wins 18 out of the 21 or something like that.
Well, I'm a
Uh,
Michigan State fan, so I also hate Michigan people when it comes to sports. So that's okay. We
it's
can see eye
hilarious.
on that.
But I will say one thing that it highlighted, you talking about the event for me is and I've noticed this in my own personal life that, and obviously, but working an event is a
Yeah.
hell of a lot different than attending an event. You can
Oh,
go to a concert and you can have a fucking amazing time. And not to say that you can't have a good time when you're working, but working an event is just so fucking different. Like the obligations, the responsibilities. Like, yeah, Kid Cudi's playing in the background, but I'm busy doing some other shit or whatever. I might get a little break to go enjoy something here and there, which is cool. I'm very grateful and humbled to have worked any of the events that I've gotten to. And I know people that do it a lot more often than myself, like Loyalty Gardens, Ty Six. I know he does a lot of different event stuff.
yeah.
And I think depending on the role that you're in, it can be maybe more or less fun. But if you're just there for the pure joy of it and just getting to see your friends and hang out, it's nice to not have any responsibilities and just get to link up and fucking have a great time. Because
Yeah.
yeah, it can be tough when you've got oh you got to give the same pitch to like 100 random people versus I'm gonna go hang out with like the 10 or 15 people that I know at this event for varying amounts of time, smoke varying amounts of awesome weed, and maybe share stories and catch up and uh, I was just gonna reference somebody, but I don't want to reference that person anymore. But the idea of recharging your batteries at an event is one that I've always kind of felt is
Absolutely.
your social battery kind of gets recharged, seeing all those people and sharing those great experiences and great cannabis.
And that's really what it is. It's just like, yeah, you're just the fellowship or whatever, just sitting there. I mean, hell, me, Anything Grows Emily and Vark Dog and his wife, we just sat there and shot the shit the entire time. Listening, we're sitting on a grassy hill. The concert's right going on right down in front of us. And we got some fucking weed, we got dabs. It was fucking awesome, dude. And just to be able to sit there and chill and I mean, it wasn't even like it was spread out enough to where there wasn't people on top of people on top of people. You know what I mean? When you looked around, you felt like you were just, just chill. So that was really cool.
Some indoor events can feel like you're a sardine in a can, where you're just
Yeah,
elbow
I
to
don't like
elbow.
that.
Like Spanibus looks like that a little bit to me, and I'm sure it's not actually that way, having
It
you
is.
having been.
It is that way, but there's just
Okay.
Spanibus. That's a whole nother game, dude. That is you are a sardine, and there are that many people, and that's just gonna happen when you put that many people in that much space.
Yeah, no getting around it. And I think it's kind of one of those things. It's like maybe you do it once in your life or a couple times, or if you're closer, you can go to all of them or whatever. But uh, that is personally not a Jack Greenstock event that I'm like looking forward to, just like the sheer scale. And I don't hate massive events. I was just talking about working some and even going to them and having a good time. But when it gets that, like, and I'm not even really claustrophobic, but when there's just that many people in a tight space, it can be difficult to hear, difficult to talk, difficult to have the quality connections that you can have outdoor on a hill when you're, 100 yards away from people and just sitting in a little fucking circle smoking a joint. And so I'm glad that you got to have that kind of experience because it's life's too short, we got to enjoy the little moments like that and get to spend time and enjoy the events. And I'm curious if Noah the grower has ever been to any cannabis events throughout his career.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, that's where my daughter was conceived. Was it Hemp Fest? What year was it, Rachel? 1999 over in Eugene, Oregon. I swear to God, 100%. So, oh yeah, I've been to
I
multiple
believe
Hemp
that.
Fest. That's for real. That's for real, man. And dude, I'll tell you guys what the crazy stories behind the scenes one of these days. But I'll tell you, this is like back in the day, and so what? I was like what 20, 19 or 20, and we were like, like just walking around for vendors, looking for acid, looking for mushrooms. You know what I mean? Just, typical 19, 20-year-old kid stuff. And this is, weed was a lot more illegal back then. So if you had like the chronic, you know what I mean? Like you were the man, you know what I mean? So it was a lot of fun, and I've been to multiple ones. I vividly remember like us having a tent and like coming back, and my sister and my wife like freaking out because there was some dude, just random dude, passed out in our tent. Like, oh yeah, there's a lot of crazy stories, and I haven't been to any events recently, but growing up, I did all that kind of stuff, and was a big partier and it was a really cool way to like meet people. Like I remember my buddy, like, you know what I mean? Like this is how crazy it is back in the day. Like, you know, you get beers like really cheap. And so he was like sneaking beers in and like trying to sell them for a couple bucks a piece out of a cooler, like trying to watch for like, you know, there was cops walking around and you know, it was a lot more outlawish. You know what I mean? When I was growing up. And so it was like when you showed up to one of those type of events, you know what I mean? You were surrounded by a lot of outlaws and it was a lot of fun. You know what I mean? So just I'm listening to you guys talk about it and I was just kind of thinking about it in my brain and yeah, oh yeah, no, I we went few years in a row and
How did it change like year to year? You started in 99. What was the last one you went to in
like
terms of Hempfest?
well, it was probably we went to like two or three in a row. So probably like 98 and then like 99 and then 2000 probably. And they were all like pretty good. It just kind of like my life just kind of evolved. Like that was my second baby's mom. That was my second kid before I could buy my first drink. Like, you know, life kind of slapped me over the head pretty quickly. And so there was less time for partying and you know, doing hallucinogens and all this crazy stuff I did when I was younger. I did a lot of crazy stuff. I was a very crazy young man, and but that, like I said, it was a whole different vibe back then because it was like, you know what I mean? Like there would be guys walking around and they'd be like, you know, like whispering to you, you know, buds, shrooms, you know, caps, doses, just like I don't know how much you guys
That's how the
are.
Bay Area was when I was there. When I was
Oh,
up
I
at like Haight
bet.
Ashbury, like they, people would literally just walk around, literally just saying it out loud,
Yeah.
and then people would walk up to them and be like, "I want
Hmm.
shrooms. How much? $50 or $30, whatever the fuck." And then you hand them cash. They walk around the corner, fucking come out. They've got themselves a bag, and you're on your way. You know, so it's
Yeah.
I mean, it still exists to some extent. I mean, that was maybe a decade or so ago, probably. Oh man, even more now. Damn, time flies. Two decades ago, but but even then, so it's
Hmm.
about the same era, and I guess a little, a state or so south. But it is interesting that those things existed in that kind of way for a long time. But it seems more like instead of the event changing, your life circumstances changed, and absolutely nothing wrong with that by any means. Having a family is a great thing, and I'm glad that
Yeah.
you've got grandkids now. So
Yeah. Yeah. And versus today, and yesterday I was spending time with my granddaughter and I bought four square balls and was pumping up four square balls. My life has evolved quite a bit from when I was younger. But man, I was a, you know, real crazy young man. Even stuff I would say, you know, let's just say that I was protected everywhere I went. Like I was a very, you guys, if yeah,
you were in the
I
right circles, it sounded like,
I
and
was, and you know, it was a different vibe back then. You know, I was just thinking about this and just talking about this the other day. The world that I grew up in, you know, I'm 47, so the world that I grew up in is a little bit different than I think the world is now, for better or worse. You know what I mean? But it's just that whole vibe. You know what I mean? That whole scene, just like I remember being like 16 years old and buddies. We would like four of us would like go up $5 each and try and go get a 20 sack. We called them dubs. You know what I mean? Like,
I did the same shit. I know
yeah,
exactly
and
what you mean.
yeah, you know what I mean. So it was just a different vibe. You know what I mean when it was illegal and that was almost kind of the part of the allure. You know what I mean? Like I remember like my parents, they had my parents used to live like their backyard was like butted up to like a cornfield, but on the other side of it was a cemetery. And me and my friends would go over there and we would just get stoned. We would stash like, you know, makeshift, you know, when we were 16, you know, 10th grade, we would um stash like you know what I mean? Like pop
Homemade
cans,
pipes.
soda pop, you know, pop cans that we'd made into pipes and yeah, I mean it was just, you know, young kids having a good time and I just don't know if that's how young people, you know, are living now. It's just like more like, you know,
A
you
little
see like
bit of the
even
population.
well, you
They,
see like people are like kind of like they're like smoking like vapes Not even like, I mean, THC vapes too. You know what I mean?
There's
And
still
it's like,
kids, still kids scoring bags and smoking weed.
oh, I'm
I'm around
sure,
enough
of
hiking
course.
and at least especially in Southern California, I see little teenage kids fucking smoking joints and fucking hitting bowls and makeshift gravity bongs and shit. Like it's still the culture is still there. I'll champion for the Zoomers and whatever Gen Zs and Alphas and whatever the heck's coming next. But a lot of them are hitting vape pens and a lot of them are actually doing dabs and shit already, like real young, like way younger than I was doing dabs. Admittedly, I didn't start that shit until college, but that I was smoking younger, and I don't know. It's an interesting phenomenon to see all the different eras of kids coming up smoking weed, and for the most part, not having too many issues. And times have definitely changed from people, scraping together $20 to go score a dime bag, or dub bag or whatever, and now they could, hey mister, like they could at the gas station in front of a dispensary, like, hey mister, could you buy me a six pack or whatever, and like offer enough people, $5 tip or something, $10 tip. Saw some of the kids did it back in the day. If they didn't have a fake ID, somebody goes in, buy, an extra six pack, and then they come out and fucking hand it off to them or whatever. And I'm sure
Whoa, I didn't even think of that. I definitely shoulder tapped to freaking get beer. I didn't even think of shoulder tapping to get weed. See, that's dude, that wasn't a thing when I was young.
now it
But yeah, of
is.
course we
Now it's an
shoulder tap for
option.
beer, you know.
You see some kids, it's like outside, whether they're outside a casino or a dispo or a gas station, like there's some of them are wanting a fucking puff bar. It's for a nicotine bar. It's like 21 here. I think you can't get tobacco products under 21, which is I'm actually happy to hear it, but it doesn't stop them. Like whether it's the shoulder tap or the fucking they'll figure out the store. The one high school kid will figure out, oh, this place sold it to me, and then they tell all their buddies, and then all these kids are coming and buying it until they fucking lose their license or get fined or whatever it is. But I think that's a little bit less strict than the liquor license. Like with liquor, I think they're pretty hard on that stuff. In terms of tobacco, I'm not sure if it's that way. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But getting back onto the cannabis side of things, I'm curious if you guys have any strategy plans or general things that you do throughout the full year in terms of IPM. Maybe I'll pass it to Spartan because I know you have an indoor garden and an outdoor garden, and I'm sure that you've got maybe some stuff in your arsenal that maybe is active or just waiting in reserve. You're muted still.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was double muted. It's my bad. And the indoor garden is I don't really do a whole hell of a lot. I have unless I react, right? So if something shows up because indoor it's kind of contained. I'm doing a lot of popping from seed and growing, and so I'm not introducing a lot of there's not a lot of ways I'm introducing pests. If they do show up, I have Lost Coast plant therapies, a good knockdown, and it will take care of most things, clean them up. I'll have I have a high microbial consortium really that I'm using in my soil that's doing a lot of the heavy lifting for me. The trichoderma and the Bacillus subtilis working together, it's making it so I don't have to do as much treatments. But if I were to run into a fungal thing in veg, I'm probably going to, I mean, especially if it's getting bad, I'm probably going to look at wettable sulfur as something to do. I really like wettable sulfur the most as like a quarantine thing, for a cutting or even a rooted cut, because you can get the whole plant coverage by doing the dip, right? The plant dipping the whole entire thing. But I mean, it's kind of the nuclear option in my eyes. It doesn't really hurt the plant in any way, but it's just this is going to be controversial, but it's true. Is it kind of ruins concentrate because that sulfur could, if it's not washed off, it could end up in the final product in the bud. Um, these little granulars of sulfur, which will make it terrible. And I've heard people I respect like PC Bubble Man. That's probably the top example I can come up with that when doing these extractions in the bag, he's seeing this yellow film and he can tell if people have used wettable sulfur. It's coming off in the extraction even. So that's made me kind of push a little bit away from wettable sulfur. I still love it for a plant dunk on an early young plant because I mean that's so far back before harvest, right? That it's not really going to be likely to show up in the end product.
I
But
was gonna say those leaves are all gone. Like my first five nodes, are like that bottom tiny little branch. Like it's getting trimmed before I flip the flower at some point, and like that stuff's
Right.
come and gone
If you're
before.
topping that plant, you're taking a lot of it right there.
That's a good point.
Um, but yeah, so yeah, that's kind of what I do. If I go into flower and I'm in trouble, I have the Predator lights from Grandmaster LEDs, and that's just a UVC under canopy light that shoots up, and it's very effective. And I also will use Lost Coast if it's early, like first 2, 3 weeks. I use Lost Coast to knock down a fucking spider mite, showing up or what else? So, like, I don't know, powdery mildew, something like that. And then come in with that UVC and use it as a cleanup, right? Just run that UVC for a week or two. Make sure if anything is still alive, it's going to get fucked up. And that's pretty much what I do.
I'd say that's pretty good, well-rounded
Outdoors, I just let
tools.
it rip unless I see something terrible. Like if see like powdery mildew, that'd be the most common thing. Then I'm out there with my spray, Lost Coast Plant Therapy, or something as simple as any kind of milk. When I mean any, I mean 2% fucking fat-free or full fat whole milk. Just mix it 50-50 with water and spray that shit on your plants, man. You'd be surprised. That shit works.
Oh yeah, it does. I mean, that goes back to the I can't remember the guy's name. He started Gas House, but he came on with like a fake afro and he was talking about like cayenne pepper and like milk and using those for IPM. And he had a lot of success and still does. I think Houston, I think is the guy's name. But in terms of IPM or going to the mold prevention, these are some of my favorite things for indoor or outdoor. If you're fighting any molds or mildews, if you've got a pair of scissors, you can go out there and snip, 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 and take a lot of that plant off and open up. I know that you already do a great job of keeping the inner canopy open and air it out and trim off the small growth and excess leaf. But outdoor, especially if you're growing a plant like Vortex or a lot of subcool stuff that can get ultra, ultra leafy, it can be a full-time job trying to trim that bush. So I can understand when people don't get in there and snip as much as maybe they should. And that could be one of the sources of molds, mildews, and even pests, because when there's a leaf on top of leaf and like stuff like that, there's just more nooks and crannies for all those thrips and spider mites and shit to hide, and you not to see them until the outbreak is at a more critical mass. And I'm a big fan of, several of the products that you're talking about, sulfur, the amazing well, not Dr. Zymes. You said Lost Coast Plant Therapy. And the other one that I personally use is the Dr. Zymes, but that's like my last resort because I've had some experiences where it didn't necessarily knock down some of the stuff that I was going after, but I think that was more resistance from getting stuff from a shady ass nursery. So screw those people. And I do think that quarantining is always worth it when you do get clones, and better safe than sorry. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm also on the more reactive front, starting from seed or clones that I've quarantined and made sure we're clean. You don't necessarily, I feel like, from a cheap home grow perspective, um, I don't think that you have to be spraying 2 times a week or something, like putting Bavaria Bassiana on your plant all the time or spraying sulfur all through veg like every single week just as a preventative measure. If you want to do that, if you've got a multi-thousand or million or however many dollar operation and you're doing it more commercially, um, I could understand that and respect that. But I'm more of a wait and see, playing a little bit on the back foot, but with crop scouting, I'm looking at the plants every day, usually twice a day. And if something comes up, I'm going to catch it fairly early. And in that case, I'm able to react with a few things that I've got on hand. And so, although I know that a lot of people in the IPM space and like people that I know that are not even related to or financed by a product like Matthew Gates. He's not getting paid by somebody to say use Bavaria Bassiana. He's not getting paid by anybody. Yeah, to my knowledge, he's not sponsored by any of these product companies, but he'll say what he thinks is best for certain situations. And he would suggest, like I was talking about more for commercial people, he thinks that a constant rotation of several different things like all the time is probably the best approach because from his perspective he knows all that can go wrong, so he wants to prevent it from ever happening. And I think that in that perspective from a professional standpoint, it's his job and his credibility. If he doesn't do that, he's going to look like a schmuck. You can't have people's gardens getting ruined because you said, yeah, just wait and see until it happens, and then you can react. If he was taking my approach from a professional standpoint, he's like putting himself at a liability perspective and just not offering good professional advice. So, from my podcast perspective and my own personal experience in my indoor garden, your mileage rate may vary. You might have more pests in your area. You might have more pests than, whatever it is, or just good luck, bad luck, whatever it is. Like it could have come off of your soil from the grocery store or something like that. Certain things that you bring in and were unavoidable. So it's good to have tools. I know like another one for like soil, I was just talking about something that'd probably be like fungus gnats, soil related stuff. I know a lot of people like nematodes, but those have had some issues for a lot of people. They come dead potentially, but it's an option out there. And there's just so many options. Like you're never really out of options until you stop looking. And it's easy to think, like myself before, that and maybe this is a product of my mother. She was a big chemical fan. She would like bust out the fucking raid if she saw a bug or ant or whatever it was. Just fucking that thing is gone, like nuclear option. And we weren't growing tons of plants or anything, so other than the kids and the dogs, we were the only things that would be harmed by the sprays or whatever. Where other than the intended insects, and in the case of growing cannabis plants, like there's just way more healthy, safe, clean, organic options that like aren't going to harm the end user. Like will be gone by the time, like in the case of the Dr. Zymes or the Lost Coast Plant Therapy, in California they test for stuff and like those are gone like part per billion non-detectable within like a couple weeks. I think it's like less than that even within like days or hours in some cases because they're like light oils and alcohols and things like that or enzymes that are only there and active for so long. So the beauty is like even if you sprayed that on the plant it's gone, unlike in the case of like sulfur. When you spray it it is physically there. Like when the water dries up you can see almost I think sulfur does this. Doesn't it almost look like mildew or something on your plants? Like you can see like a dust or like a powder and stuff like that.
Yeah, leaves a stain kind of on the leaves that you can get off with water, but you kind of want to leave it on because that's how it still works, past the
Yeah.
time your first spray.
It's like part of the shield. It's literally like wearing sunscreen. Like it's a physical barrier that covers like that's why you're dunking the entire thing. Like you're getting the coating and
Yeah.
that's just like a slightly maybe excess
And milk
amount.
will do the similar thing where it pools up on the leaves and stuff. When it evaporates off, it'll leave a little white stain. It looks similar to the PM you're trying to prevent. So if you're using that little hack with the diluted milk, be aware of that because when the plant is kind of infested with powdery mildew and you're spraying with a spray, it usually looks like it washes it off right away, that white goes away. So you know that any white that shows up the next day is probably that milk, but you can investigate it when you go up and look at it. The powdery mildew looks way different than dried milk on a leaf for sure. Once you look up close.
Yeah, for sure. It's the mildews are more of a obviously living biological thing. The fuzziness, the kind of spore growth is different than just like the white stained blotchiness or powderiness that you see. But if you don't look closely, they are both just white powdery things. So I could see how people mistake them. And another tip, just generally with the IPM, we were talking about sulfur and we were talking about Dr. Zymes, and I believe it applies to any horticultural oils, which there are thousands of them. I just couldn't list all of them even if I wanted to. But generally knowing if you're going from sulfur to oil, that they recommend, I think, a week between spraying either one of those things because I think that you can cause burning of the plant for one reason or another. I know people that have tried it in less time and said that they didn't have issues, but that was always kind of one of the recommendations that I've heard and continue to pair it because I
It's
have
a
seen
good
people burn their plants
recommendation because
up.
I've burned them. I've burned them that way for sure. So yeah, you don't want to like follow up with a oil after you've done sulfur because that oil will act kind of like a magnifier as it sits on the glass, and then the sulfur will be underneath too. So now you're heating up that sulfur right on the leaves. There's been a couple cool comments in chat too that I want to just share for people that might just listen and not be able to read the chat. Some great suggestions, honestly. I believe Art Man, maybe it was somebody before him as well, said that they used Persimmons. Yeah, Fried Piper 5887. Persimmons is a great predator for if you have spider mites specifically because that's all they eat. That's the only thing they eat. So they'll kind of die off after they get rid of them. So it's an excellent suggestion. I mean, for if you have that specific problem. And then there was one other thing. Oh, and then Art as well. Shout out to you, Art. He says Matthew Gates has a Patreon account. I give him $1 a month just for kicks, and he always answers questions. And yeah, that's $1 well spent right there. That and you want to have good answers, well-researched answers right there. Matthew Gates for your all your pest information right there. $1 a month. That's a steal.
He's a good person to have in your corner, 100%. I remember back when he had enough time, if you just tagged him, and he still does this from time to time when he has time, but if you tag at Sync Angel on Instagram or whatever, he would come in and say what the pest or predator was with like the scientific name and like give a little bit of advice. Uh, just like a very professionally written like one little paragraph, and like it would always be like the top comment on that post because once people would be like, "What is this?" and then he'd come in and fucking say exactly what it was, and then like sure enough, he was right. I was like, I didn't even know who he was the first few times I saw it. I was like, who is this bug superhero coming in just like blessing us with the fucking knowledge? Like it was like 5, 10 times in a row. I was like, oh my God, like I'm following this guy's account. And then found out the YouTube channel and just tons and tons of great content. He's featured in books and has lots of great advice. One that I didn't actually pick up from him, but I think is a great one for outdoor. If you've got climby bugs that like to go up your stems or stalks, there's a product called Tanglefoot. It's an organic sort of IPM. It's sticky. It goes around the base of your stalk. So if stuff wants to climb up, it gets stuck into this sort of like organic goo, and it prevents things from climbing up into your plant. So that's a decent one that out here in California works on a lot of stuff.
I was gonna also that reminded me. That's a physical stopper. When you're doing these IPMs to be a strong IPM, you have different layers, and if you have different layers that are doing different things, different modes of action. Like the sulfur is almost like a chemical reaction, whereas the oil is just suffocating, and then the tanglefoot is like a physical barrier. They're getting stuck to it. And I, what I was gonna say is for me growing cannabis, I grew that first, and that kind of led me into plants. Well, I guess we were farmers. I grew on a farm too, so I guess that's not true, but it really led me to grow my own plants at home as far as food goes, and food and medicine. Other medicine, other herbs. And outside, it's inevitable. I mean, you can't avoid it. The amount of pests that you're going to deal with is going to be tenfold than what you're going to deal with on the indoor. And wow, what a training tool, right? Don't, I mean, embrace that thing. Use that outside time to figure out, well, if I see some aphids indoor, now I know what the fuck to do because they just were all over my milkweeds in my, garden out front. What the hell? And or if I start seeing some ants climbing up on my milkweed, I know that's an early indication that they're getting ready to farm some fucking aphids. So keep an eye out. So many little tiny things that you would never really pick up indoor. Outdoor can teach you some cool shit, and you can just put that in your gardener's tool belt and be ready for shit when it happens. And you can really stop an infestation for something that could be devastating, and just turn it into a pain in the ass for a week or two.
The Gardener's School of Hard Knocks. We learn through experience, and then we try to share those experiences desperately with anybody who will listen to us. But then those people that we tell will go through the exact same thing and be like, "Hey, you told me about that thing, and that exact same thing happened to me." And it's like, well, ideally we can learn from others' mistakes, but it is better to learn, not better, but easier to learn firsthand sometimes than hearing somebody tell you about it. Another good, just little IPM tip that I like is they make those little yellow. I think they're green too, but I've always preferred the yellow ones. I think like yellow dying leaf is like part of a cannabis plant, and it's one of the things that attracts pests. And so the yellow sticky cards, and
Oh
some of
yeah.
them have the little like a diagram on them with like a square, like a grid. And I think that's really good just from a perspective of like if you see one thing, it's easy to like freak the hell out. Like it's a good metric of like, is the grid packed or is there just like two, three, five on the entire thing? Like how densely packed in the area is there? It makes it easier to say like I have three per 1 inch square or whatever. And like as it progresses, it's like, well, I only had three yesterday. Now I've got 7 or 10. Like it's getting worse. And so that's a good little tip and trick just to kind of, it's another physical barrier, but it's also a good identifier. It's just so easy for you mentally. Like when you walk into the room, you look at that card, it's bare, it's bare, it's bare, and then all of a sudden, now there's something on it.
You know,
Now there's bugs on there, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna look at that. Can I identify what that is? Is it a fungus gnat? Is it something else? You know, and so you can go from there. And
what's great is
another
you got it caught, so you can take a really close, nice picture of it and send it to somebody, an expert like Matthew, and get an answer and identify, and then you know, okay, now I can get a battle plan and destroy these things.
And he might already have a video preloaded with all the information that you need. Like he made these pest primers for a long time on his YouTube videos, Emptanol, where it would be like spider mites, hypoapis miles or whatever. No, that's a different type of mite, but whatever the heck the actual uh, Latin name was, and then he'd say like two spotted spider mite, and then it would tell you all the different variations and the life cycles and the ways that you can defeat it with, predator mites, the ways that you can defeat it with sprays, and just so much helpful information, like how they're able to be a pest to the plant. And learning that different information is going to help you better be able to fight them. And I really think like the life cycle thing, like whether you have like fleas on your pets or something like that, knowing, oh, like you might think they're gone for like a few days, you're good. Well, the eggs can like live for like 21 or more days, and like they can rehatch, and you can have another infestation if like you didn't clean out a certain area of your house where they're coming in or where they're stored up on like a piece of furniture or a piece of clothing or a carpet or something like that. And I guess transitioning from that, just one more thing I had written down, which is another great tip. Also, the same guy that mentioned the Tanglefoot, he was talking about just growing outdoor in California, having a ton of success. He only used Tanglefoot, and the other thing that he recommended was BTI, which is Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis or something like that. And you can get it really cheaply through a product called Mosquito Dunks. It's a pretty commonly available thing throughout the U.S. at least. That's available in like hardware stores and big box stores and whatever. And you just take these little mosquito dunks and you can basically put them into water and then spray it. And there's a ton of different ways to apply it, but a little bit goes a long way. And that BTI is extremely successful at fighting a lot of different stuff. But there's BTK too. So I think BTI I think is good for like the worms or caterpillars and things like that that might have been troubling this person otherwise. And that's also why I think they want a tanglefoot to avoid stuff crawling up. But a lot of the time it's coming from trees and shit above. So it's good to have a more holistic approach where you're spraying stuff and attaching stuff to prevent them from getting on. But if they do get on, make it so it's unpleasant to eat. It'll either poison or kill them and make them stop. So
Yeah, BTI for the mosquitoes and flies, like the fungus gnats. BTK for the damn caterpillars. And just remember that because that one's often when mistaken. I use the wrong one, the eye, to try to get rid of the caterpillar and say it doesn't work, and vice versa. Be like, yeah, that doesn't. You're right. I agree with you. You
is
got to
there a
get the right guy.
BTK product that's available like the mosquito dunks, or is that one
Yeah,
that's more
there's all different
specialized?
ones, but if you put Bacillus thuringiensis K, which is like Kurskaki or something, I don't remember. They'll come up as the, like worm killer this and caterpillar, whatever the flashy marketing is going to be, nuclear nightmare or something.
Monterey BT has a product that has it, and that's a pretty common one. Um, and then Google incorrectly pulls up the mosquito dunks when I typed in the BTK, but
Yeah,
the
that
most
would be, yeah, that's crazy because that's the completely wrong one.
literally like an opposite product almost in a sense. Like they're both Bacillus thuringiensis, but in this realm of like organic chemistry or whatever it is, it really matters in this case, pesticide usage. It matters which one you're using. So the one, like Spartan said, you could spray as much BTI as you want on your plants, but if you've got caterpillars, it ain't doing shit. The BTK is the one that you want for the caterpillars. And so it's good to have both available because, I mean, all it takes is like one bottle, you buy it, you've got it. And part of the IPM thing that I always found interesting is it really is regional. Like every area has different stuff that one place it's grasshoppers, one place it's caterpillars, one place it's moths or some sort of spotted lanternfly or something like that that can just completely come and ruin an entire, not just single plants, but crops, like an entire crop, not just cannabis, but like several other crops. Like it's devastating certain plagues of these pests or molds or mildews. Um, I mean, yeah, there's just so many different ones that can like stem rot, even like simple, quote unquote, simple stuff can cause millions or billions of dollars of loss across ag and horticulture. So there's just like a good reason, I guess, to as much as like I hated looking back. I don't care about analytics, but like whenever we had an IPM episode, the views would just tank because people don't want to hear about, even if we're talking about growing, and like I do think it's a pivotal, important part of growing, this is like the thing that most growers don't want to hear about. They're like, no, like don't manifest it. If I don't think about it, it won't come. And like my grow has been good for 8 years or 10 years or 6 years or however long without an issue. And it's like all of a sudden that one fucking year, you never know. It's just good to have in your back pocket. It might be 20 spot here or there to pick up one of these products, or more expensive in the case of like if you get fully infested. Um, One of my favorite approaches is not one of the cheaper approaches, but it's one of the cleaner approaches, I think, is using a variety like a what's it called? A predator mite, something that can eat the bad, the good bugs eating the bad bugs. And that approach, while not necessarily the cheapest, it is a approach that I find to be effective. And so I just figured I'd throw that out there. And I think we got a question from maybe Kate Armstrong, who was saying, cheap home grow, Spartan grown, any suggestions for slugs? I've been dealing and having a battle with them in my backyard, and they keep eating my sunflowers and they're vulnerable little babies. Um, I'm curious what Spartan has to say about the slugs because I've always heard like copper or salt or a few different things like that that can
Well,
be
you want to
more.
avoid salt because that's gonna fuck your soil up. Unless you put like something maybe over the soil. But what I would do for slugs is the beer trap is the my first go-to. And what that is you just bury a little bowl half full of beer, and you want it to be right at ground level, so they'll roll right into there and go after the beer. They love that smell, and they'll go down in there and they'll just fucking drown in there. You can even put a little drop of Dawn dish soap in there to help break the surface tension even more, so they stay down in there. Um, Another thing you can do that I've heard that works fairly good is if you can just like some buy garlic and boil it and put that in water and spray around your or spray your plants even with it. They fucking hate the smell of garlic. So that's supposed to help really good with them. But the beer trap is the one that I've tried for sure. You'll catch quite a few for sure doing that. Another thing is it's really moist. That means where your plants are. So if you can do anything like pull back the mulch, if you have mulch, if it's just bare ground, weed all around there and keep it weeded out real nice. Let the airflow get through there to keep it dried out because they love being where it's obviously moist. And then lastly, you said that they were going after your sunflowers, which pisses me off when they fucking eat the sunflowers. But what you can do is, it's not the greatest, but plant them, right? Plant them and start them inside and get them bigger before you even put them outside. So you can have a well-established plant and that's, kind of slug-proof in that aspect before it even goes in the ground.
I've had the same problem with my sunflowers outside. The
I've
thing
had
that
deer come and eat the fucking heads off my sunflowers already. Took two of them already.
that's
That's
awesome. The other
that
thing you can
hurts.
do that I haven't done yet, but I did buy a bag of them on a whim, and I had a guy at a local feed store recommended me was hazelnut shells. And I just know that when I bought a Japanese iris, dwarf iris, at a home and garden show, it had those
Yep.
and around it, and it didn't get eaten up. And then the other like iris next to it, it did get eaten up because we have tons of slugs and snails around here, especially slugs.
That's
And
another good physical one. It cuts them the fuck up. And you can do diatomaceous earth if it's not too
yeah,
wet. That's a nice cheap alternative and just
well, the hazelnut shells will eventually break down. So like you could
yeah.
just leave them there forever, and then eventually they'll just come like whatever. They'll become part of the dirt. But yeah, I got a big bag of it for like I don't even know $12 or something, and I've just been kind of being lazy. But I have like because I have a lot of flowers outside, and we have a ton of sunflowers. We have some big ones. We start them inside, and the slugs have been tearing them up, and they've been tearing up my irises and my tulips,
Uh,
my dahlias, everything. So
we've already had
yeah,
poppies come up. We've had some of none of the sunflowers have even they've got heads, but they haven't even began to really build anything yet.
yeah.
love those sunflowers, dude. We have some mammoth ones that got so huge last year. I got stalks still from last year that are like easily 8 foot tall. Fucking
We did
beast.
too, and so I feed the birds, and then they drop them, and like so there's a whole bunch of them that will just volunteer where we feed the birds and stuff, and it's right next to my strawberries and stuff. So today, like there's like a group of like no BS, like in like maybe like a 3 by 3 square foot. There's like 40 of them, and like one of them was like sticking out, and I was just kind of mowing the edge, and I'm like, I'm mowing this little edge right here. I don't care.
I don't
I
even
need this.
care.
You're taking over my yard. Like, but no, my wife is a huge sunflower fan and she puts them all over the place. She puts them in her gardens, puts them everywhere, and the slugs mess with them. I hate it.
I'm glad we're sharing tips for that because they're a menace. I was gonna say I wanted to pass it to you because I figured in the Pacific Northwest it is wet and rainy, and where else would slugs rather be and thrive and be happy, you know? So I figure you guys have got a lot of experience with that, and I knew you were also a sunflower grower as well. So
There's
uh,
another great suggestion in chat on this too, and this was I've seen on that movie, The Biggest Little Farm or whatever it was, but that's ducks. You can have those ducks run through there and they'll eat the shit out of those fucking slugs as well. But not everybody is able to have ducks.
they're great defenders of your property too. That signal animal, you know, they'll chase anything down and let you know that things are coming up. It's like a guard dog, guard duck. Geese too, in that capacity. But ducks are nice too for the eggs, you know, and meat eventually, if you ever go down that path. I know a lot of homesteaders and things like that have taken that approach and with great success. And nice to have dual purposes, you know, synergy. You're getting IPM, you're getting eggs, they're getting a healthy, it probably adds more of a flavor to those eggs, you know, a more well-rounded, balanced diet, natural, homegrown stuff right from your own backyard. So that's two birds with one stone, or two birds with one seed right there, you know. You're winning with that combination if you are able to. But like Spartan said, a lot of people cannot have ducks, so it might not be a possibility. But good to at least put it out there because I know a lot of people deal with slugs. I know the salt was more like remembering as a kid, I saw people put salt on a slug and it literally shriveled up and you could kill them like instantly with it.
I've
But you
seen
want to,
salt circles around plant stems, but then that eventually, if it rains, you're fucked.
yeah, you definitely don't want that sodium flush into the soil. I would think of that as more as like a physical removal style IPM, where if you have caterpillars and like you can see them, you can go out and literally grab them and squish them and stomp them on the ground and like murder them. Like, don't eat my fucking plant, asshole, you know, if they're big enough. There's like, I have this little thing, it's called a bug assault. I usually use it to kill spiders in my house because my wife is not a big fan of that. So, that and my carnivorous plants, we're a tag team operation, dual IPM, but it's a little pump action, salt filled plastic. Like it looks like a squirt gun, but you just like cock it and then it shoots a little burst of salt out and it just destroys spiders. We have black widows out here, which can actually, I have cats, they can fuck them up. So got to be careful with the nasty spiders and take them out. But yeah, they're physical removal is an option. Whether it's like
Another
you
good
can,
tip for that, physical, I agree with the physical removal, but you can just get like a mason jar, fill about half full of water and put like a little bit of that soap in there. And if you don't want to kill things or whatever easily, you can just drown them.
yeah,
So
pluck and
you just
drop.
just keep grabbing them and drown them. You can hold it under the plant and shake them into it, whatever you want to do, but that'll get them, and you don't have to fucking squish them.
My mom is a huge like my whole family's all farmers, but my mom is a huge flower garden. She has flowers that she dug up from my grandma, my dad's mom, that like my dad's mom died in like '09. She still has stuff. And but she's so like she that's what she does. She crop scouts and she goes out there and she'll be like, ah, it's a slog. Whee! She just and my mom is like 65 and she's winging these things into the yard, into the road, and she hates them. She's always out there and she'll put anything down. She's just like, I can't believe they're going after my dahlias. It's so funny. And I'm out there, and then my granddaughter is out there. "Well, here's the slug. She's messing with Gigi's stuff. And yeah, so that is definitely a thing you can do, and I've seen people do it.
It works to great effect. I mean, what better than, I mean, physically removing the thing from existence, right? Making it no longer exist in your area. And it reminds me of that lady at the hydro store talking about tomatoes, and she was actually growing tomatoes, like brought in a bunch for everybody. And it's just funny because some of the non-cannabis gardeners are, as passionate or even more passionate than we are about their gardening. And so they don't want their stuff to be eaten, whether it's a slug or rodents, like cats and dogs can be pest issues. Your chickens, if you have them, can actually be, they can dig up and knock over and kill plants if they're not being careful. Like chickens will actually eat cannabis plants, like they'll eat the leaves and stuff. Like I see people feed them their male plants and stuff. They'll either chop it down and throw it in, or just put the whole pot in there, and they'll just come up and start pecking at it and chomp it away. So it's one of those things you got to be aware of. There's so many different forms of IPM. Where I was at, we had deer that would just run through people's yards. Like there was so many they had to do a culling because like people were dying in car accidents like on the daily. There was just so many fucking deer. They got overpopulated. The bunnies were dying, the birds were dying, everything else was dying because the deer were eating everything and just being a huge nuisance. And when it gets to that point of overpopulation, a whole lot of homeless people got fed. I think they donated like 70,000 pounds of meat or something like that. It was crazy. So the shelters were well stocked for a long, long time with good, fresh venison. And so those people ate well for a long time. But yeah, the with that, like you need a fence, a physical fucking barrier, like an actual like wooden or metal fence. Like you're not keeping a deer out with a little chicken wire.
Not even a 6 foot fence is gonna do it with a deer either. You're gonna need to be building a big fucking fence. I've seen them fuckers jump over a 6 foot fence like it was nothing.
I saw that one when I was in Ohio. Like the highway, they have those little sound barriers. Essentially, they're like little walls, and like they kind of start at like maybe 6 or 8 feet, and then they go like up to like 8 or 10, and like 10 or 12. They like kind of like taper up in terraces, depending on like it might be like a little downhill. So I saw one jump over like one of the middle sections. It wasn't even the smallest section. That fucker was running full clip, almost keeping pace with the cars, like getting onto the on-ramp and just jump fucking over one of those things. So, yeah, deer are a hell of a thing to have to deal with because
I
they're
often wonder when I see them
athletic.
do those crazy things is I'm like, picture yourself as that deer. You're jumping over this fence. Who knows what's on the other fucking side? And you're just flying, like just flying. And it's amazing to see him jump. It's like that's not real. That's not real. I've seen him stand still jump over those little farmer fences that they keep the cows out with. And I'm just like they're just like, what is this stupid shit? Boom, jumping right over it. I'm just like, those things fucking impress me. I've seen them, people think that, oh, those are just, this lovely deer that hang out in the forest and eat the grass. No, dude, they fucking eat. They're opportunists. They eat anything they get their mouths around. I've seen them eat birds. They're fucking, wow.
Whoa.
They can be
Yeah,
nasty,
dude.
man. They can be real
Dude.
nasty. They'll
Google
definitely
that right
eat.
now. Google, I bet you it'll come up. I'm sure somebody's got videos, photos of fucking deer eating birds. They're all fucking crazy, dude.
It was relatively newly documented. Like it was one of those things. I actually think I heard about it on like the Joe Rogan Experience. Like it was they were surprised when they saw it because they thought for a long time that deer were
Dude, I've seen it
omnivore
right on a
or
post. It was like I don't know, a small black, I don't know what kind of bird it was. A small black bird, and this deer just was right next to it, and the bird looked over at it like, oh, it's a deer. And the deer just in one fucking bite and it just started chewing it like it was chewing grass, like it was an everyday thing. And my mouth had to have been hanging out. I don't I always thought the same thing that these things just eat grasses and grains and stuff.
when you look at their droppings, you would think that, but I think like you said, nature is rough out there, and they'll just when they have an opportunity. I just found out I watched a video from Gatorland where alligator was eating another alligator, and I guess 6 to 7% of the population of alligators get eaten by larger male alligators. They just like go through like, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. There's a little competition. There's too many of us here. Like, I'm gonna eat you now. Like they're carnivores or whatever. So that's just how they get down. And spiders are similar. I think once the mother has the babies. I think they kill the mate and a number of different spiders. So it's the other one is the one that I won't recommend for IPM because I've seen too many people try it, and I wish it worked because I think they're so fucking cool, and you can get them because you might want one as a pet. But praying mantis or mantid, manti, whatever the fuck, those things eat and kill. You might buy 1,000,
Each
and you're
other.
ending up with one per plant at most, or maybe one per whole environment.
And they're aliens. Don't forget that.
Let's go.
They are fucking scary looking aliens. If you've seen the close-ups, some of them are cool as shit. Like I know like there's breeders out there and stuff that like have really cool colors and shit. Like there's like neon ones and like clear ones and like fucking pink and shit. Um,
Big,
I
tall,
almost feel like
alien looking ones
they're like
that visit you at
dragonflies
night.
that can't fly. But
Whatever they had at that gathering made Spartan talk about aliens, and I'm here for
the good weed, that'll
it.
always do it.
I'm always down to talk about some aliens, man. Come on, bring them out. Let's see them.
Hopefully friendly. That's the come in peace type aliens because a lot of the aliens that I've seen in the films are the planet destroying variety and not so pretty in some of those representations. So I'll
Yeah,
just
a lot would say the same for us humans, right?
well, slowly but surely. I think of it more like the humans are like cigarette smokers. We're a slow, steady death. Where aliens are like jumping off a bridge, you know? It's like a quick fucking one and done. You know, they come down if they so wanted to, blow us up or whatever. Fucking Death Star style, erase our planet from existence just like overnight. Phew. None of us even fucking know, right? We get shot from another dimension. That'd be some shit. Like that's how we discover aliens exist. We all die instantaneously. I don't see that reality happening, fortunately, but if and when it does, sorry to the aliens for questioning your eminent power.
And maybe we can grow better than them.
That's what they're pissed about. That's why they're
That's
going to
why
take us
we're
out.
here, man. That's what I've been saying. That's what our purpose is in life is to keep growing. We just got to keep doing that, and we'll keep our alien overlords happy.
And hopefully they don't get mad about us murking those slugs.
I'll tell you what, as long as we keep giving them that dank fucking ganja, man, they ain't gonna care.
That's right. Well, speaking of dank ganja, do you guys have any specific ways that you like to train or manipulate your plant as you grow it in terms of getting your optimal result? I think we see Noah's grow each time. So maybe Noah, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you go from when you get that clone at that spot that you go to vegging it out and then flowering it and making it look like those beautiful plants that we see whenever you show off your garden.
Well, I will get a clone, but then I make my own. But no, I'll go out here in a few minutes. Lights coming on, but I I'm always constantly messing with plant training, and that's funny about the IPM thing is that just kind of like Spartan said, I get kind of complacent sometimes. Like maybe I'll try and like spray with like Lost Coast or like Spittle said early in veg, like once, just as a preventive maintenance, like like during it. But I actually have a new one that it's key lime pie that I'm very excited about. But I'm very regiment about. I had it in my wife's tent in our other part of our garage, and I was spraying it like, dude, I sprayed that thing like forever, like three times, and in 3 days in a row. I don't even care. You're figuring it out. Just in case I had anything, I didn't see nothing. But what I was doing is that I'm low stress training it right now. And what I did was I was trying to like, you know what I mean? Like I squeezed the top of it to make the other top, stuff go up because it's going to be in veg for like a total of like 7 weeks. So I'm trying to control its height, and I squeezed a little bit too hard and kind of broke that membrane. Not broke the whole thing, but I could just see like the corner of it. So I took a piece of tape and I taped it. So it didn't die. So and it was the main top too. You know what I mean? Even though I had topped it, but and then like
Has it
that's a
turned back up or flattened out?
oh yeah, turn right up. Oh yeah,
Heck yeah, dude, you're in the
yeah.
money then. You're
Oh
chilling.
yeah. And it's
That
gonna be a
definitely
big
slowed it down.
knot now. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure
Yeah,
you guys have done it. It's
it's
fun,
gonna
you
be a
Those are
know?
big
always
ass
my favorite
fucking bud though
branches.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
Always the
and
frostiest branch at the end though. Like that branch that got that knot, like I swear, like follow it to the end, like 99% of the time it's like one of the best nugs on the whole plant. That's why I try to make a bunch of those if I can.
I don't know how much experience you guys have with Scroggin, but I've been doing it for a long time, and you can do it too much. Like you're like, oh man, like I'm gonna move this whole branch and I'm gonna get a bunch of tops coming off of it, and you can. But I feel like sometimes that messes with the integrity of that big nug. So I like if I have two of the exact same, you know, plant that's in the exact same from the exact same clone that I clone at the exact same time. I might have one where I just like almost bend it. I'll push it up into the net and bend the whole thing. So it'll open the whole thing up. But then another one, I'll do that, but then I'll just kind of like let the main top go through. So there's different ways you can experiment with it. And it's very strain dependent. That's another thing, very strain dependent. Because certain, you know, plants will stack higher up, you know, better closer together, the nodes. So it just depends on your you know what your strain is, what you're running, how close your lights are, what you're feeding it. There's a lot of stuff that goes into how you train your plants.
I had a plant called Platinum Yeti, and like no matter what I wanted to do, I would top it. I topped it like 4 times, and instead of like going out, it just wanted to go straight up. It was like four straight up, fucking just. I'm here. I'm going fucking straight into the fucking air. Like you can't stop me. Like I'm gonna be fucking a Y shaped plant at the most. You know, it was like that was the most I could get out of it. Like it wanted to go straight fucking up, like just every branch on that plant, and it was a thankfully I flipped soon because it like 3 or 4x its height from veg. It was like a 11 or 12 inch plant and ended up being like, 40 plus inches. And in my little space that was like maxing out. It ended up being perfect. Like it was primo. My brother still talks about that shit to this day. Years later, he's like, "Oh man, that Platinum Yeti, it's like it just had a certain flavor to it." And he really loved it. That one, it had like a little bit of like a actual baked cookie in there. I don't know if that was what he was picking up, but like it definitely had a nice gassiness. Um, it was strong as fuck. It's funny because it was like the one that really broke my entire uh idea of there being an indica looking plant or a sativa looking plant because it grew straight up like that. And not only that, it had these thin ass leaves. Like they were thinner than this little photo behind my head, like half the thickness of the blade, maybe even a third. They were the skinniest little fucking leaves. And I was like, oh man, this is gonna be like an uppity high. Like, but this is like an OG like kind of cross. Like it's supposed to be more like sedating. I guess we'll see. We'll see. Smoked it and it was like top 5 most sedative plant I'd ever smoked ever. Like very narcotic high. Just extremely like body only, like drag you the fuck down, like put some people to sleep. It wouldn't make me sleep, but it just made me like couch locky, like tired, like feeling like heavy and great pain relief. It was a good plant. I enjoyed it a lot, but certainly when I thought, oh, broadleaf plant means indica, narrowleaf plant means sativa, that one was like nobody, like exact opposite. So I think it's good for hopefully all growers to have those types of experience. Maybe you'll get a broadleaf plant that gives you a super uppity high, and you're like, wait, where the fuck did that come from? And I feel like that might be less common. The narrowleaf, I do feel like is pretty decent indication. For a long time, they were calling um, what many call sativas NLDs, narrow leaf drug varieties, and so they were describing that like versus like hemp, which would be like a narrow leaf uh, hemp variety or non-drug variety, and then the broadleaf drug, so BLDs, and broadleaf non-drug variety or whatever. So just interesting that those don't have a correspondence to the for a long time, like as soon as you learn indica sativa, that's kind of like the thing that you see. It's like a picture of like a big fat broadleaf, and then there's like a little skinny sativa leaf, right? And for many of us, we imprint that in our mind and carry it with us for a long time. And then finally it gets shattered right in your face, eventually. Maybe it hasn't happened for everybody yet, but man, when that happened to me, I was like, the smell was really what gave it away, actually. The way it smelled was more what I expected from something that would give me that sort of effect. So I think that the terpenes, the nose knows, if you put a jar under my nose and there's a bunch of like pinene and like you know, terpinolene, limonene. I'm gonna expect like, a more uplifting thing. No matter what the buds look like, no matter what the plant looked like, I'm gonna expect a high that corresponds with me feeling like I'm gonna feel great. I'm gonna be focused. I'm gonna be sharp. If I wanted to go to an event like Spartan just went to, that's the type of thing I'm looking for. Fuel, I can actually get by on fuel, like daytime, nighttime, but I think some of the really like funky stuff. That's the stuff I keep for like the nighttime, like bedtime. Cherry pie was like a kind of cherry gas, but had some funk in it. But I feel like whenever you get that funk, like the kind of earthy smells, kind of rotty smells, that kind of stuff, you can expect maybe more of a something that's going to pull at least pull me down. I guess everybody's endocannabinoid system is different. You got those people out there that drink coffee and go to bed. I'm certainly not one of them, but that happens with coffee too, right? There's people that smoke the thing that's supposed to make them fall asleep and it picks them up. So everybody's system is so different. It's hard to say across the board, but I will say a huge percentage of people, just like coffee, drink it and feel energy. A lot of people smoke Vortex and get a huge lift, or they smoke Jack the Ripper and get a huge lift. And I think Spartan might be dabbing some Vortex right now. It looks like he's taking, or maybe that's not a dab, maybe it's a bubbler.
Oh, this is a bong. Yeah, shout out to Varta. I'm smoking the Vortex that he grew, so and I'm
Heck
loving
yeah, man.
it. Yeah.
And you don't even have a show to go to after this. You're just gonna get to maybe hang out with your dogs and your lady and have a good time. Maybe the kids or grandkids or something like that. But
Absolutely. Go downstairs and water the garden too. Hang out with those ladies for a little bit.
Definitely gonna hang out with those ladies tonight as well. Gotta spend some time in the garden, make sure everything is acting right. I'm actually gonna pre-box. I've got my little boxes they're flat when I buy like 100 of them to ship out for the Open Source Genetics Alliance. So they come in a big fucking box, but they're all flattened. So I have to shape them and then tape them and then I hand write this side up, this side down, top, this side up or side up, and then arrows, bottom, side down, and then I do the same thing on the back side, just in case. No matter which side they look at it from, they're going to be able to see at least one of those sides, and then I always have the label on the top, like the shipper requests, and yeah, I just I'm prepping another one, at least one to go out tomorrow, and maybe another. The one I sent a reshipment, and the reshipment didn't work for. I think that the person had it delivered and they weren't able to get to it, and I thought maybe they would just like it'd be sitting on their porch and they pick it up later that day. But I think it was weird because I got a photo of it like at their house, right? And then I think what happened was like the UPS person took a photo, like I delivered it, and then they like knocked, waited, nobody came to answer or something. So they picked it back up and said like, "Hey, well, come pick it up." And then this person wasn't able to get it until over the weekend. So it's at another 2 days until they could pick it up on like Monday or something like that. Um, and I think even then it was still alive and well. And like the opening of the package is what ended up killing the plant because I use Gorilla Tape uh, with my Gorilla Glue. Shout out to, I do think Gorilla Glue and Gorilla Tape make good products. And I think funny enough that Josie named the plant after that because it is very sticky. But dang it, that Gorilla Tape was so sticky when I have the two red solo cups kind of on top of each other and then I tape it all the way around. If you get an open source Genetics Alliance clone, have a sharp knife or scissors with you because that tape all the way around, it's going to be sticky. And then there's tape on the inside too. So you're going to want to be able to cut that stuff out. Or in certain cases, like if you want to transplant it right then, you could just take scissors down the side and cut the entire thing open and then just take the root ball and then drop it in whatever you want to plant it into. But a knife just to go around the outside as much as you can. And then the stuff like the light is taped down and then the soil is kind of taped down into place with a little cardboard slot on top. And so that might be a little bit difficult to negotiate because it's a few little small pieces of very strong sticky tape. So I understand if anything happens, I'm happy to replace people's stuff and have done it now a couple times. And um, just making sure that everybody gets taken care of because I've been happy to see a couple people are like, hey, I'm that guy in my community now. I got the GG4 from Jack. As soon as I veg this thing out, I'm giving it away for free and hit me up, like come to me. I'll have as many clones as possible. And I'm like, hell yeah, man. Like this is great to see because that's the whole point. Get it out there, kind of revive it a little bit in a sense, because I do think that the fact that so many people have hit me up for it means that they don't have it or they don't have easy access to it because they're willing to wait and get it at, a fairly affordable price. I'd say just cover the cost of shipping and a little bit of my time, but under $50 with shipping and everything with the 2-day shipping. And so at the end of the day, it's eye-opening to me that so many people still want it, and that is just a great reason for me to keep pushing it out there. And I'm happy to send out as many as I need to. I'm either gonna slow down at a certain point because flipping a flower, I've only got so much space and whatnot, but doing as much as I can as fast as I can. So it's been a fun process, and I'm just honestly ecstatic, and I really can't wait to start getting the Death Star out there. I'm taking Spartan's advice. I thought about, oh, I've got 2 cuts. I'll send the extra one out, and then he's like, why don't you just take both, make them both into moms, and then you'll get way more cuts, and then be able to send way more out. I was like, that's a great fucking point. So that's what I'm doing right now. They're still in the solo cup phase, getting almost ready to the point where they'll graduate to the 1 gallon here soon. But yeah, I don't know, man. I love this plant so much that looking at them, uh, taking care of them. I'm a pot lifter again, in a sense, in my veg. In flower, I have them in earth boxes, and so I just look down the hole, and if there's no water there, I fill it up and occasionally give a little top water on transplant, or if I want to water something in. But just having a bunch of clones always, like with the open source alliance, where I've just been taking way more than I normally would and just rooting as many as I possibly can, as fast as I can, and as little of a space as I can. It's just like, oh man, it just feels so good. Like I root them, plant them. They're like a real plant. Like I'm not just sending somebody. And people are like, we'll take a slip. We'll take a slip. Like I get that, but as much as the difficulty with me is I think I want to make sure the plant is resilient, right? So even if like something does happen in the mail, for the most part, all of them except for like a couple have made it, and the few that haven't, it's been I made a mistake. I sent it over a holiday weekend, and the person who got a replacement warned me ahead of time. They're like, "Hey, it's about to be Memorial Day, and UPS admittedly kind of fucked me. They were like, "Oh yeah, this will be delivered on Saturday," and they like gave me like Saturday for all of them, and then all of them ended up being like Tuesday. So I'm like, "Shit." And then I Google it, and they're like, "Well, you have to pay extra for Saturday delivery or something like that." And I was like, "It doesn't say that shit anywhere in the." I don't know. The details can be a little bit blurry, but my go-to now is to send them out either Monday or Tuesday. Um, Wednesday at the very, very latest, because then they'll usually get there by Friday. And ideally Monday or Tuesday, so they get there before the weekend and don't have to worry about adding a few extra days. But yeah, I'm not trying to harp on it too much because it's been relatively, I'd say, a smashing success in terms of me being able to get out as many as I can, and more so just not spending enough time on the back end because I've had people offer like, hey, we've got seeds, we've got cuts, we want to join and participate. I need to make a Discord or I need to make a communications network so that we can get those people that have offered that
Yeah.
to start sharing the wealth as well. Because I have a network now of people that might be interested or are interested in cool clones. And so why not make an easier pathway for them to start sharing them?
It just feels good, man. I mean, we made a vacation out of it and took a week. And so at the start of our vacation, the first thing we did is we drove up north and met somebody who wasn't able to get any plants, and we just dropped off, a bunch of plants for them to put outside to get some of their own, grow their own medicine, which they wouldn't normally wouldn't have that. So to be able to do that for someone, we know how huge that is and how easy is it for us to have a couple extra cuts or, I was gonna say anybody who's worth their salt and taking clones takes more than they need anyway. You're already doing that. And if you have good practices, they're probably rooting. So instead of throwing them out, hook somebody up. Get somebody fucking hooked with growing, and they're gonna do the same thing, and that's gonna, snowball into God knows what. But they get that snowball going. I can't encourage it, and plus just the feeling that you get, they're so thankful, and then you can, it makes your own day. Not only are you making their day, it makes your day as well.
I gave one to a neighbor who is a non-grower. They just had like other plants. They have a little mini garden in their like front porch area, and I gave them one or two of my extra cuts, and they got like a couple like baseball you know style colas, and they're not even really a smoker. And at this point, they've actually completely stopped smoking. But they had some other friends that they shared it with, and they just all thought it was like the coolest thing ever that they had this plant that she grew from this guy who just gave them a plant for free, and I was able to tell them what it was and a little bit of a background on the genetics and what they might expect for smells or effects or whatever. And yeah, it's just like you never know. It might in that case, it was like the one time it didn't really spark a further curiosity. They are a business owner, a very busy person. They expanded their business, bought the building next to their building. This is such a boss. I'm just proud of this person in a sense that we're not even really that close anymore, but they have like a ceramic studio, and the place next to them was an urgent care clinic that I went to one time, and they were okay. But apparently they were assholes to the ceramic studio people, like over parking, every little thing. There was just always a headache to these people. Well, the ceramic studio lady, she bossed up and was like, fuck it. That urgent care is like going up for sale. They didn't do too well. So she bought the fucking building that next to them that was like kind of bullying them in a sense and made it into like a second studio because they were doing so well. So I was just like, damn, that's fucking awesome. And but being that busy as a business owner, multiple buildings and all that, I don't think that they're in the place in life where they're trying to use cannabis. They're like totally sober now. So nothing against cannabis. I think it's just that that's the path that they're on in their life. But everybody else, like my barber and other people that I've taught, they're still growing and still enjoying it, and still whether it's just like one crop a year, or two crops a year, or like an outdoor, or maybe they got a little indoor setup going. It's become a part of their life in a sense. It's like a tool in the tool belt that they can always tap into. Some of them are more kind of full time with it, and some of them are more just very slight time hobbyists where they might have, like I said, just a couple crops a year. But I think that's awesome. It's you don't have to be like fucking. Some people feel it's funny. I see people online like shame people that have like small grows. I follow the smallest grows. Like there's a guy called like One Plant Closet Grow for a while. I don't know if his page is even still out there, but I just thought that was so cool. I was like, this guy, he could grow more. He had enough space in that closet, but he's just like, I'm just gonna do one plant. Like that was the whole name of the whole thing, and I was just like, this is so cool. Like there's so much energy, time, and focus into that one plant, and that was the whole story and like interest for me. But some people are like wanting to see I don't know, acres and acres, and if that's what you're interested in, that's cool too. But at a certain point, it to me almost looks more like commercial growing of corn or something once you get to a massive scale. So I think the most interesting and exciting stuff is happening like at the craft scale and by people that started as home growers, the Jungle Boys types, right? The home growers that got into the commercial space, the Brandon Russ, who started growing, for themselves or for a crew in a maybe unregulated setting, and then were able to transition into a setting where they are doing it legally in a number of different areas. So got distracted. My cat walked by. She likes to be my co-host in the background over here, making sure she's not getting into anything inappropriate. Nothing for her. Maybe she's trying to chew the cord in half so that I stop talking to you lovely people through the internet that don't
Oh
have
shit.
internet connection, that I can't podcast. Then I have to give her all of the attention.
You ever have problems keeping her out of your grow, or is she just endlessly going in there anyway?
They're pretty good. To be honest, I usually let them get at like the lower leaves, like stuff that's not going to make it anyway. I'll leave a little extra on there, just like on the front end, so they can nibble on a leaf here and there. And their fur is just like their Maine Coon Persian, so like even if they're out of the grow, it's just everywhere. So like a little bit of it gets into the buds, unfortunately. I take that out on the rolling tray. Like if and when that happens, it happens to the bud I grow, and it happens to any bud that I bring into the house. Like their hair just flies around. So like a little bit of it, but thankfully it's white and it's super like light. Like it can literally float in the air, like weightlessly. It's just like floating around like it's air, and it's very easy to notice. And so it don't. I'd say almost never goes into. It might make it into the bowl, but it gets pulled out. It doesn't get smoked. So that's the major factor at the end of the day, because burning hair is just not a pleasant smell, or I'd imagine flavor. So maybe if that's your thing, then shout out to you. But I think there was a cologne called Burnt Hair. It was like a joke from Tesla or something for a while. But yeah, that's a rough smell. If you've ever done it yourself or, known somebody around you that burnt their hair, it is a horrific stench that I think is
I burnt the
putrid.
beard hair, man, and that was pretty rough for a while.
I remember that. Oh shit. That was live. literally live
Yeah,
on
that
the
was
show.
live on camera, man. That's years ago now.
I think that honestly, it was probably for the best because probably saw yourself on the camera and were
Oh,
able to start
100%. I
smacking
saw
it
it on
out.
the camera. Yeah, I definitely saw, because I leaned over the flame and it lit up way down here. And I saw it on the camera, but it went fast. Like the flame went up one side really fast. And so I just started slapping it out and it went out pretty quick. So I was extremely lucky. Could
Thank
have been a
goodness,
lot
man.
worse. No burns or anything, so that was good. I
Everybody
just
just
lost
like
about half my beard. I think it was it's about here when when it's all said and done.
we're like unfortunately very vulnerable to catching on fire. Like any little flame, like as human beings, like we have oils and stuff in our skin, and our hair is just as moisturized as it could possibly be, fairly dry relative to, like, it's not like a wet piece of wood. It's like the driest of dry kindling. Like it goes up fast. I'm watching The Sopranos right now, and one of the scenes, this lady is distracted, and catches her sleeve on fire, cooking over like a propane stovetop, and immediately goes up. Like it catches her whole entire gown on fire, and like catches her hair on fire, and she doesn't do the stop, drop, and roll. Like the guy, Tony, who's with her, Tony Soprano, comes and throws like a blanket over her head, throws her on the ground, and like pats it all out. But stop, drop, and roll, people. If you don't know that, thankfully I've been through fire safety and got trained that when I was very, very young. But stop, drop, and roll, and also cover your face. Put your hands over your face while you're burning to protect. That's like the hardest place to reconstruct, and you know, if you do survive, you're going to want to ideally look as much like you did before the fire as you did after. And I saw a graphic, fucking horrible, one of the most disgusting videos in my life that got forced onto my feed on every fucking social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the fucking shit. It was posted just unedited, raw for everyone to see. This lady in New York, like this year, last year, burning a fucking live in the subway, and like people just standing around doing nothing. The one person that was doing something was suspected potentially to be somebody who either helped light her on fire or lit her on fire. He was like fanning the fucking flames. He had like his hoodie and he was like fanning it, thinking maybe that he was going to fan it out. Maybe he knew it was going to make it worse. Maybe he didn't. But the fact that nobody yelled like stop, drop, and roll, or like helped her like get on the ground and start fucking rolling around, it was tough to tough to watch. Even just a couple seconds that I saw, um, knowing it wasn't AI because there was tons and tons of news stories that verified the incident. Um, it's just one of those safety things, you know. I think it can save your life or somebody else's. And fires happen surprisingly a lot more often than people would realize. Car accidents are very often leading to it, or even having an accident. My buddy, my best friend as a kid, his first car, he had like an old beat up Beamer. We were driving out of my elementary school. There was like next to the high school, there was an event, and we were leaving. And as he was leaving, I just remember something sparked in his engine, and like it was within a few seconds, the fucking hood was on fire and black fucking smoke pouring out everywhere. And thankfully, he got out of the car, and like people called
Holy
the fire
shit.
department, and they got it taken care of. But shit can happen fast, man. So if it gets on to you, beard, face, hand, whatever, you want to, smother it, pat it out. It needs oxygen to breathe. And the stop, drop, and roll kind of thing works because you're actively snuffing out the flame across your entire body. And it, I've seen enough demonstrations to believe strongly in it, and think that, it might seem silly, but I'm sure you all know that shit at this point. But Jack beating a dead drum, maybe, but the
No, it's worth it. You don't fucking if you ever burn yourself good enough, you know you don't want to fucking be burned. That fucking takes a while to heal from that, and God, does that hurt for a lot longer than it should.
yeah, and nerve damage almost always, and like nerve damage is a specific type of fucking horrible. I think that cannabis is actually one of the things that helps with nerve damage. I've had some nerve damage myself from arthritis and bone injuries, like terrible breaks and fractures and um, cuts and things like that that ended up, being permanent, essentially. But with that, the amount of pain or numbness and issues caused are much, much less, I think, while using cannabis. I think that because the endocannabinoid system is so pervasive in the human body. Like it goes from literally the tips of your toes to like your head to your fingertips and like eyes and ears and nose and tongue and everything in your whole body, your stomach, every major system, your heart, they're all touched with endocannabinoid system. Like it is just like every other pivotal system in our body. And so it's just you know, amazing for I think in this case helping nerve pain, but so many other things. And I'm preaching to the choir. I know. I'd imagine of the hundreds of people who are here with us tonight, everybody's got a different story. Like fucking talking shit with Eagle for a long time. I think the two questions he asked is when was the first time you used cannabis, and when did you start growing? Were like the two things. And he would talk to people for like hours, but like a lot of it was people in so many ways were revealing that they were self-medicating for one thing or another. Maybe it was for anxiety or depression or pain or insomnia or whatever it was. Like they might have just started smoking for fun and then realized that was stress relief. And there's just, yeah, I don't know. It can treat and help so many different things that it makes this community so broad and diverse that I'm glad that it continues to show that it's not this harmful thing that it was painted to be throughout most of our lifetimes. And still, depending on where you're at, even in California, I hear people demonizing it, like
And
people
it's
that I wouldn't even
still,
expect.
yeah, it's still demonized, yeah, at the political level too. And fucking, it's like what before the reasons you're just talking about, the medicine of it is the reason why it's worth fighting for and to continue fighting for. And like we said, the cheap home grow, you should be able to grow it yourself. You should be able to take control of your own medicine. Speaking of which, the 10th, 3 days from now, everyone in Michigan or anyone who wants to drive up or whatever, meet me at the state capitol in Lansing. We're having a lobby day at the Andersonville, so it's near the state capitol, and it's 9 a.m. And we're gonna break off into groups, talk to the different lawmakers about. There's a slew of bills that is attacking cannabis here in Michigan anyway, and from roadside testing to actually taking away how many plants you can grow as a caregiver, or being able to have multiple caregivers on the same location. Um, a whole slew of things to be able to talk to these folks. And anytime you have a chance to educate lawmakers or their staff, which is just as good, take that because we need that so bad, so bad. But I'm going to try to make it up there. I'm pretty sure I'm going to make it up there. I'm planning on it.
The staff actually do a huge amount of the work. My dad
Yeah,
was
they have the ear, they have the actual ear, of the lawmakers. So
and the
that's, you can't
hands and
talk
the
for them.
feet. They're the
Yeah.
ones doing the actual like pushing of the papers and like the moving like the bosses are like saying, okay, you go do this, and they have like the big ideas. But the people actually like doing the stuff, the boots on the ground, are those people that you have access to. And while they might not necessarily be able to make the change themselves, they can pass it up that chain. And sometimes they are well liked. A lot of these people rise up through the ranks, right? Like they start as a pencil pusher, so to speak, and then move their way up to a boss status. And yeah, you never know whose ear you might get and whose mind you might change.
Absolutely. And it's worth, just like I said, just the education of it all, because they still are so confused on a lot of different issues, and what their decisions or what they're even thinking of, for change wise, how that can affect the patients. And I mean, that's the thing, is nobody's thinking about the patients right anymore. Nobody's thinking about the patients and the home grower. That's all afterthoughts. So I don't know. It's part of, I think, my own responsibility to get in there and fucking be like, no, listen, this is what you guys are really doing. This is ridiculous. Can you tell me why you want to hurt the patients like this? Really frame it so that they understand what they're doing.
I've always been a believer that if you're out of sight, you're out of mind, and the squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of thing. So if they aren't thinking about, because like right now, it just sounds like they're not thinking about the patients. It's not like they're thinking, fuck the patients, we're going to cut off their rights and we're going
Well,
to
what's important
worsen
is to
things
figure
for
out what
them.
they are thinking too. We're guessing what they are thinking after, what was that, Wednesday? After Wednesday, we'll know what they're thinking, because we'll or ask them, "Hey, what are you guys thinking? Why would you do this? What's your?" And I know what it has been in the past, and they've always pushed towards, um, people from out of state, basically illegal activities. people claiming that they're caregivers but are growing, 20,000 plants and, moving it out of state across lines and all this other illegal activity. And it's like, so that's not even an argument, guys. That's already illegal. So what, you're going to make a law to make it illegal when it's already illegal, and that's going to fix the problem? How? Yeah, that's an easy argument. So if that's what it is, I can slam dunk that pretty quick. They're gonna have to come up with a better reason than that.
I agree. I mean, illegal is illegal, and if you've already got the laws on the books, then it's about enforcing them and actually prosecuting them. Because oftentimes the police are like in maybe more, unrelated crimes, able to figure out who did it, lock them up, and then maybe they'll go in front of a DA who doesn't feel like prosecuting, and so they just let them go, and so they don't charge, or the prison's overcrowded, or it was maybe deemed mental health or drug related, and so it goes down a different line of things. So um, it's unfortunate because I mean, yeah, I don't know. I've seen it in other realms, like with some gun laws and things like that. Like they'll kind of kind of it's an ever back and forth fight with certain states that like don't want them, and then some states really want them. So they'll both be fighting like we want X amount of rounds to be able to be carried in the firearm, and like California it's like 10, and other states are like maybe 8, and then some states are like fuck it, you can carry as many as you want, and it's a back and forth, but it's constantly like a little battle, and it's like chipping and a chipping and a chipping. Like they're kind of one side's always trying to push it lower, one side's always trying to push it higher. And I think that the same thing is happening with cannabis. It's like um, they're using, just like so often with gun violence, they'll point at clearly illegal use of them, like gang violence and mass shootings and things like murder, obviously illegal. Shooting people in the streets, obviously illegal, right? Like those things
Yeah.
are already illegal. Like another law for the people that aren't following the laws isn't going to change that. Whether they have 10, 11, or 20 bullets, they're
Now,
going
how
to
about
come
let's
drive down the
encourage,
street and shoot a bunch of people up.
yeah, how about let's
Like,
pass a law saying it's legal to shoot back and not suffer repercussions if you hit that target. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just shooting off the fly here, but yeah, let's do something like that.
but with like cannabis, it's like they point at the people that are doing it illegally in these big operations. It's like, why would cutting a caregiver from 12 down to 6 or whatever in a household prevent some Chinese or Mexican operation, which are like the two big ones that pretty much do these
Yeah.
things, come in and buy up a whole shit ton of land and set up not just 12, we're talking 12,000
Yeah.
plants, acres of plants, greenhouse after greenhouse after greenhouse of plant, literally looking like they go undiscovered because they assumed it was a legal operation because it was so big, bold, and
Size.
brazen it could be seen from the fucking satellites. So they're just
Yeah.
like, oh, that has to be a legal operation, or maybe it's hemp, or maybe it's something else. And then they figure out, oh, they don't have any licenses for the shit. They raid it, bust it all down, and then Brandon Rust is walking around the grow making meme videos about how the fucking, this Oklahoma operation is using Eagle 20 and all this shit still. And it's like, fuck, man. Like banning home growers isn't going to stop these
Yeah.
people from coming from even within the US. I don't care if it's from
Yeah.
another country or here. It doesn't matter who's doing it. It's the people that are going blatantly over. And like in the case of cannabis, like respect, y'all. Like I hate to say it, like my hat's kind of off. Like other than the pesticides, the growing way too many plants at way too large of a scale, like Rebel Green Outlaw, like the fucking cornbread mafia. Like we respect and love these people for years. Like it's sort of like, yeah, they're criminals, but like they're doing it for the right reasons a lot of the time. And in some cases, even if they're just trying to enrich themselves and make a shit ton of money, they were putting a bunch of cannabis out there, which is a net positive to the world. So it's like, I just it's hard for me to hate other than the other, again, going to illegal aspects. Like cannabis is cool, but no, it's not cool. People getting killed over it because criminal operations and enterprises and cartels do that shit. You know, hippie home growers for the most part aren't killing each other because somebody else has a better cut down the block. People do get
Well,
killed over fucking 10 bags and shit still, which makes me so fucking sad to read. So and so got killed over an ounce or an eighth or whatever. I'm like, oh, in today's world, at the pound prices we have today, like
That's
that's
ridiculous. Go to
fucking
the dispo,
horrible.
man. Drive to the next state and go to the dispo.
You could stand on the side of the street with a
I'd die
fucking
for that.
sign and say it's for the weed, and people will give you enough money so that you can go buy some weed if you're that hard on your luck.
Yeah,
I've seen it happen. Like
I've
I
seen it too.
know. Like people just like they literally like if you could call it shameless, you call it whatever you want. But people will support that and like at least they're being honest, I think, is a lot of the way that some people think about it. And weed's a lot less harmful than a lot of other things that people could be taking if they're down on their luck and in the situation where they got to hold a sign. So I don't know, I just think yeah, it's just as much as we can eliminate the violence, cut the violence out and down, makes it better. And the illegal aspect is actually what makes the danger. That's what makes the crime. That's when all the criminal enterprising happens, is when it's overregulated. It's still illegal if it's not fully open, right? Like we're in Prohibition 2.0. You can still get fucking arrested how many different ways in legal cannabis states because you have too much of it. I have 6 pounds instead of the five, or what, I have 1 pound instead of, you know, 11 ounces. It's like, holy fuck. Like, when are they just gonna leave this shit alone? Like, there's so many other problems in the world that need addressing. This is like a very, I hate to say it, the reason it doesn't get addressed as much as it should. We're low on the fucking totem pole. We're not a big deal. We're not a budget line item that is making or breaking the state. Like for the city of San Diego, they're going through a huge budget crisis. Like they are way down in the money for whatever reason. They're trying to figure it out and doing all sorts of shit. Like, oh, we're gonna make this free parking area now paid parking, and then all these vandals came and destroyed all the fucking parking meters, and so it's like it costs way more money. So it's like we're even deeper in the hole now. And it's just like, man, fucking the cannabis side is actually never causing that issue. It's like I know of a very specific city. It's called Vista, California. They were one of the first to allow the dispensaries when it became legal, and they got millions of dollars in tax revenue. And the whole city is so beautiful. The fucking roads are paved beautifully now. Like they've upgraded a bunch of shit. Like it just revitalized the town. And so making it illegal makes it fucking suck and more difficult for. And granted, a lot of people had a lot of good times during the illegal times. So I'm not trying to say that there was not fun to be had or great experiences in those eras. But now, where we're at, I think the overregulated and illegal nature is what is causing it to still have risk associated. Like for the most part, people can go to the dispensary and have a safe interaction, but there still are people going to people that they don't know. If you're going to do a unregulated market transaction, hopefully it's somebody that you actually know, like more than just like I know a guy who knows a guy, I got a number and I'm driving to some fucking stranger's house. Like it's like your actual friend's cousin or something, or your friend, like your actual friend from high school, or somebody your family member, your fucking Spartan grown or Noah the grower in your life out there. If you're so fortunate to have one of those individuals, but there's only a few of those guys, and then there's only a few of us here tonight on the panel, but we've got about 3 minutes left, so I might as well take this time to pass it to Spartan Grown for his final thoughts and shout outs before we close it down.
Well, on the same kind of thread about a little political activism, I just want to throw a cool little number out because Michigan also got slammed with a 24% increase at the wholesale level for recreational cannabis at the end of last year, lame duck session. And it was pushed through by just a few key votes that they, brought them into the governor's office and said, if you vote for me, blah, blah, blah. But they pushed it through because they said they projected that it was going to raise all this money that they could use to fix the roads, which has been a promise that every politician has made since before they started making roads, I think, here in Michigan. But I want to read this little thing real quick. It says Michigan's new 24% wholesale cannabis tax, which took effect on January 1st of this year, 2026, generated nearly $34 million in revenue through April, which would be the first quarter. This total falls roughly $70 million short of the state's initial projection, which estimated the tax would bring in $105 million per quarter to fund the roads and bridges in Michigan. So that's what they sold this thing by their own committee said it was going to fucking come up with $420 million. I'm sure where'd that number come from? $420 million a year. Divide that by quarters, the 105. And it's like you guys just make up numbers. You just make up numbers to make things sound so good. And so like little snippets like that is something you can take in when you talk to a politician. Be like, no, look, this is all bullshit, guys. This is let's talk about what is, not what, you project, because you guys are getting wild. It's not as rosy as it is. Cannabis is the thing that they usually try to just like milk all the time for money because it's all the money is there. But that's not the case. It's not the case anymore. Oh, other than that, it was awesome to see everybody this weekend. Hard transition. Awesome to see everybody this weekend. Much love, everybody, and keep growing.
Cheers, Spartan. And I will say, past projections are not future sales, even if the price was kept the same. So if we look at the past 2025 and say we sold $100 million in Michigan or whatever, $1 billion, pick a number. And then we say, oh, well, in 2026, we're going to sell that much and we're going to add 24% and we're going to collect that $420 million, right? So 24% of 420, however you get to those numbers. But what they're not considering is they didn't even that wouldn't even be true if they kept the prices the same, but they're raising the prices 24%. So that's going to decrease your sales because you increase the price. Supply, demand, and just people's spending power is only so great. So the
Well, they
fact that
did it
they're
a
not
little
considering
dirtier.
that.
They did it a little bit dirt. I don't want to extend the show too much, but they did it a little dirtier than that. They didn't extend the tax at the end end consumer, so you can see it on your, when it rings up, it doesn't say 24% wholesale tax. It's at the wholesale level, so that makes the dispos have to fucking just eat it, so that they can compete with the other ones who aren't eating it, or they have to charge the 20%, 24% more. So then they're that business, the dispos are stuck, hard rocking a hard place. Do I pass that whole 24% on, or do I have to eat some of that to try to compete with everybody else who's eating it? So that, and who does that favor? The big guys, the big MSOs who can absorb that for a second, and it's just gross to see it happening.
It's unfortunate, but you guys can fight back. It sounds like in Michigan, to you guys' credit, I've seen multiple things pop up and then get shot down because you guys have vocal activists in the community. And I think the numbers don't lie. The voting public, you guys are actually actively out there, and you're a big enough percentage of that voting population to make them say, hey, wait, we can't just steamroll over these people and treat them like dog shit. We actually got to give them a seat at the table and listen to what they have to say, because otherwise, we're going to not be in office anymore. Right? They're going to put somebody in who's going to stand on their side. So cheers to you and all the good people in Michigan fighting. And cheers to Noah the Grower for joining us this week.
Yeah, had a great time. Always learn stuff. A little nostalgic going to the past there for the Hemp Fest, and yeah, what a great time I had growing up. I wouldn't change it for the world, but I was a definitely running and gunning when I was young, and it's so funny now, now like my life is just completely different. But yeah, I'm Noah the Grow on Instagram. You can find me there. Had a great time. See you guys next week.
Cheers. No, you sound like a retired mobster. I'm just thinking, I'm watching The Sopranos, so I'm associating too much, but just like reflecting back on the golden days. And it's like, I'm out of that life now. I'm not that way anymore. I got kids, man. Like I'm living a mature, responsible life, and I respect it. I do. The fact that both you guys are grandfathers is amazing, and it's a great accomplishment. And the fact that you'll be able to share the wisdom and the knowledge that you've accrued, not just about this plant, but about life in general, is a fantastic thing. But without dragging it on any longer, y'all know who I am at Jack Greenstock on the Instagram. Jack_Greenstock is my backup account there. And you can also find me under that name on X, formerly known as Twitter. 50strands.com has whatever I've got available on there. But if you are looking for Open Source Genetics Alliance, just make sure that you only go through those links if I send it to you via email, because I've only got so many available. And so we want to just make sure that everybody stays in the right order and everything like that. But other than that, cheers, y'all. Keep growing, grow as love, and I'll catch y'all next week.
Keep growing.